Hello, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome to the Arrowhead Kingdom Chiefs cast live from the Wolf Den. I'm Chris.
And I'm Josh, and today we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff from the latest NFL season that just wrapped up. So please make sure to visit arrowheadkingdom.org to learn more about the group and to find your local chapter. Also, please do make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And we're, of course, presented by Complete Weddings and Events, your leading provider of photo, video, DJ, photo booth, lighting, and coordination services. Visit them at completewedo.com.
All right, as always, we'll be talking about your Kansas City Chiefs. Summarizing up the entire season, looking forward to the playoffs and even a potential neutral field AFC championship game.
Yep. So we got a couple of things to cover. By the way, what are you guys drinking tonight? I have the Victor E bourbon whiskey, which is from the Boot Hill Distillery in Dodge City, Kansas. And that's named after, of course, Victor E Tiger, the mascot for Fort Hays State University, where Brian and I went and Chris hated before he went to KU. So
actually, they weren't in the conference when I went.
Yeah,
to
they weren't
in
even. We're in the Army.
Yeah.
Brian and I went to school there. So
that's right.
We were too busy hating on Colorado School of Mines and Chadron State and Mesa State.
Pittsburgh. We were still beating up on Missouri Raw at that time. So
yeah, that's true. But I think we can all agree that none of us have ever liked Pittsburgh State, Emporia State, or Washburn. You know, we had
no love lost on Pitt State.
No use for those guys. And for anybody not from Kansas, none of that makes sense, and it's not supposed to. It's kind of like that scene on Taken where he's trying to decipher all the talk when they're trafficking people, and the translator guy's sitting there going, I don't understand what's going on. He's like, you're not supposed to, and it's better if you don't. Okay, so let's move on. I think our first
I want to talk about what I'm drinking. Hold on.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I'm drinking Tito's and cranberry.
Nice. Yeah, I asked a question. Don't let anybody else answer. Sorry.
Here's a question and a 9-minute monologue. Oh, okay. There we go. It's soliloquy. Cranberry and Tito's. And what's that line from The Departed with
Jack? Oh yeah, what are you on your period? Yeah.
Yeah. What are you on your
What, some cranberry juice? What do you want? We probably can't repeat the whole line, but you know, it was said by Mark Wahlberg, who's the guy who does his job. So, I mean, we can just assume you're the other guy. Chris, what are you drinking?
Just seltzer water, lemon juice. However, it is out of an Eskimo Joe's from Stillwater, Oklahoma. If anybody has been there. So, yeah.
Man, that's
best cheese fries ever.
Date stuff, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's like college. That's like back in the day when you have college, have a girl over, make her a drink in a Route 44 Sonic styrofoam cup that you still had lying around.
Either that or one of your good old fashioned big gulps, huh?
Yeah,
big gulps. Big gulps.
So those two people were not in the movie. That is my favorite tidbit about that. They weren't extras that they brought on. Those are just two random dudes walking out of there. Jim Carrey did that on camera and they kept it, and it's quite possibly the best line of that entire
So
movie.
They had a film studio, they had a film set up, and there's two guys just hanging out in the middle of a camera shot, and those two brothers who make that film are like, yeah, you sure about that? I'll look into that.
I don't know. That's what I've seen on more than one medium. Okay,
TV.
I will tell you, I have not researched this one bit. That's something that I just chose to accept as reality because I like this story on it.
Dude, false news, misinfo, dude. Josh Kingsley, false news, Kingsley.
Yeah, so I'm a peddler of false news because it's a narrative that I like. I mean, that never happens anywhere.
All right.
So
I knew. I think it's all making sense to me now.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. So that's what you're in for the rest of the show. By the way, it's good to be back with you guys. We haven't done this.
What have y'all been up to? Good Lord.
I had a baby since week 1. Yeah.
This? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I would say that to get into our first topic, which is briefly summing up the season that we just watched, I'm going to go from a Chiefs perspective and say, what have I been doing? I've been watching a team that lost one of the most dynamic receivers in the NFL. And they were supposed to be in a rebuild mode of some sort, go 14-3 and take the number 1 seed in the AFC. That's what I've been doing. And at the same time, watching the NFL play out, I'm going to say fairly closely to what I expected. I thought the Rams would be better than being eliminated by 3/4 of the way through the season. And I thought the Bengals were going to take a little bit of a step back, just that runner-up hangover type of thing. And neither one of those two things happened. The Bengals are a good team. The Rams are not. There's probably a pretty quick turnaround for them. But yeah, that's how I would sum up the season.
Is it okay if we like just agree that we won the Colts game? I think we should just say we all won that. Like it was wrapped up. I was in the car. I was like, it's over. 4th down. They're done. And a foul. Oh, great. That's just great. But for, all intents and purposes, we won the game. But except for the part where we didn't.
Well, exactly. And I'm still waiting. I cannot wait until they actually come out and say what was actually said. Mm-hmm. And it's never going to come out because it was either the worst thing that's been uttered in the history of humanity or it was nothing.
And
I don't think there's any middle ground.
Who knows with the referees? I really don't know.
Yeah. But imagine that. Imagine like you have like all these dudes just beating their guts out, like going, and then that is what keeps them in the game. It's just like,
Well, exactly. I mean, watch the movie Any Given Sunday. Watch any football movie that has any kind of street cred. And the one major piece of consistently positive feedback I remember from Any Given Sunday was just like, oh yeah, all the stuff where they're sitting there talking to each other like on the line and stuff, that's 100% accurate. And so just go watch that scene and come up with anything that Chris Jones could have possibly said. Right. It was bad enough to get a penalty that, I mean, I remember sitting in the stands for that one, and the way that I described that moment, it was like that penalty flag came out and it was somebody jabbed a knife right in between my 2 bottom ribs and sat there and twisted it the entire time, because I looked at the guy that I was sitting next to and just said, oh, now the Colts are going to score a touchdown. I mean, of course, this is going to be the time that Matt Ryan actually moves the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Chris, sum up the season.
Patrick Mahomes really further cemented himself as the best player in the NFL.
MVP.
I mean,
MVP Pat.
To piggyback on what you said, Josh, he lost one of the best playmakers in the NFL and arguably had a more productive year this year than he did last year. He's just otherworldly. And then it also just says a lot about this organization and just how good it is. The fact that they went mostly young on the defense. They kind of went fairly mediocre at the wide receiver position and went in with a running back room that was not looking promising until Isaiah Pacheco started to really take the reins, and then Jerick McKinnon showed that he's the second coming of James White. And it's just, this is a really good team around the best player in the NFL. So this just makes me feel good for the next several years, which is what I was hoping for out of this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say is the biggest surprise of the season? And you can have a Chiefs version of that, and you can also have just a NFL version of that.
Well, so NFL version, I'm going to say the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, who predicted that? Sure. I mean, if Jalen Hurts doesn't go out with a shoulder injury, they probably win 15 games. I mean, they really first team in NFL history with 4 players that have at least 10 sacks. I mean, it's just crazy what they've done this year. I mean, from the Chiefs, as far as what I would say was most surprising, I don't know, I guess Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, it was just a really nice surprise. And I think he's added a really needed physicality to the offense to run behind what is really a physical offensive line. So that's been a nice surprise, I think.
Yeah. Brian, what are you thinking?
Biggest surprise is Jonathan Taylor from the Colts being just a big pile of not good. You
drafted him on your fantasy team, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Yeah, there you go.
It's my first. I had the first pick of the whole thing. I chose Jonathan Taylor because he was like the top one, and I had him last year. And it was a gigantic pile of. He did not have a good season. I didn't look into it whether it was him or that maybe that line wasn't getting the gaps that he needed. But that was just like he was a rock star last season. This season, just nothing. And so that's live and learn, I suppose. There. Surprise, I suppose, is probably I think something that we all probably agree with is we touched on it too. Tyreek Hill, like thinking like that was going to be like such a detriment to everything, but when you have Patrick Mahomes, he finds ways to. I wonder if it's the players around him. They find the way to rise to the occasion of what Patrick Mahomes puts out there. And when you have all reliable, that's what we call Travis Kelce. It's all reliable. When he's out there doing his thing, whenever you need 7 yards, whenever you need 12 yards, and whenever we're watching those games, who do you think it was? It was all reliable, wasn't it? He got an 12-yard pass, didn't he?
And he was supposed to take a step back too without Tyreek Hill. And look what he did. I mean,
Exactly.
It's just
Exactly. No, I mean, I have to say my chief surprise is how well this all went. I expected him to be a good team, but this was crazy. I mean, Mahomes, there's people out there making arguments that he's not the MVP. The best one that I've heard is that the Eagles were a shell of themselves offensively when Jalen Hurts wasn't playing. I guess that makes sense. But I mean, Mahomes led every single category.
What would the Chiefs be with Chad Henne? Give me a
well, exactly.
Come on.
Exactly. They're not even they're probably not even a playoff team.
Anymore,
yeah. So I mean that was
Come on.
surprising. I mean, from the NFL as a whole, I'll kind of go down the list. Jonathan Taylor was a surprise, but a bigger surprise was how tough the Colts were versus how bad they were at winning games. I mean, the Colts weren't a horrible team per se, and they made every game uncomfortable. So what that reminded me of, in Premier League soccer, there's 20 teams in the Premier League, and there's 6 that go in with any kind of ambition of trying to compete for anything, and what they're actually competing for is a top 4 spot. There's always going to be somebody trying to sneak into that, but if you're doing the math of the 20 teams, that means there's 14 teams that probably aren't playing for anything. And there's a good somewhere between 6 and 10 that are playing to not be in the bottom 3 and get relegated. And so there's this team that has been in the Premier League pretty much as long as I've been watching, which is 10, 15 years at this point, called Burnley. And last year they finally got relegated, but they were known as the team that was just a complete pain to play against. And so it was not anything that was looked at as necessarily a horrible result to go play on their field and take a draw. And it's because they sat back, they played defense, they made everything hard, but they never really won a whole lot of games. They were never threatening to be anything. And they were always, kind of a couple of bad signings away from being a relegated team. And that's what finally happened. That's what the Colts reminded me of. They were just none of the games that they played were easy. They weren't fun to watch. They weren't entertaining. I mean, I don't think anybody had a good time being part of any of those, and that's what it was. And it was surprising how bad that got. But they've had a pretty good track record since the Andrew Luck thing of just doing bad things, and they're probably going to hire some other washed up quarterback next year to come in and try and be more Matt Ryan than Matt Ryan, or Carson Wentz than Carson Wentz. That's going to be interesting. The other ones, we have Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, both with losing records. One of them didn't make the playoffs. One of them is a losing team making a playoffs. So, everybody keeps looking for the changing of the guard, old guy type of thing, which, by the way, Mahomes is the old guy in the playoffs in the AFC. That's just wild. But but yeah, it's just
Georgia quarterback is 25 and he's like older than the other ones who aren't Mahomes.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So yeah, I think that's the thing that's been surprising.
I got one too. Another one too. By the way, finish your thought, but I got one more too.
No, go for it. I'm done. I'm rambling.
Miami Dolphins. I want to point that out. Miami Dolphins. That's a surprise, right?
I agree. Yeah, the Dolphins are surprising, and really we'll extend and say Tua. I mean, Tua.
And that coach is my age, by the way. He's interesting.
Yeah.
He's like, or he's like our age. Like, I always wonder what like dudes our age are doing. Like these high level, they're starting to like take on these positions that are more like, when I think of a quarterback, a head coach, I always think of like a grizzled old guy. I'm like, oh, we hit our 40s and we're starting to become those dudes now. And like, they're taking on head coaching positions and they're taking on those positions. Like, oh, here's our first one. And I like his viral videos where he like his notes are something I think my friends would say, or I would say, like, that move you made to make that guy who wanted to tackle you to not tackle you. Yeah, that was sick, dude. Like good feedback, dude. Nice feedback.
So one of the viral moments of the year, Steve Martin and Martin Short did the Hulu show Only Murders in the Building. I haven't gotten through even the first season, but I watched some episodes and it's highly entertaining. I'm not sure how Selena Gomez got pulled into that, but she's great in the show. So I'm glad that that's who they picked, because it just works for whatever reason. But so they go on late night together, and Steve Martin starts talking about how he had this idea for a while about, you know, a couple old guys that don't really want to leave, so they only focus on murders that are in the building. And supposedly one of the things that got that finally put into production is Martin Short is listening to it one day and goes, "You know, we're old, right?" And so there you go, Brian. You know we're old grizzled coaches at this point, but here we go.
Yeah, it's just funny, like watching a dude probably grew up on Nintendo and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Now he's in charge of the Miami Dolphins, and the way he approaches it. He's funny to listen to. I enjoy watching his viral videos.
Well, and I mean, I've spent time in all these different big companies. I've bounced around jobs. You know, I haven't stayed anywhere for an exceptionally long period of time, and you see dynamics, and it's to a point where, you know, there's people my age that I worked with at other places that have these high level director and VP type of jobs, and there's a combination of things that get you there. And I think some of it is you have to be willing to weather some, you know, pretty ridiculous storms. You have to deal with an organization where you're going to be banging your head against the wall and not necessarily agreeing with things. And, you know, part of it, I think you have to be willing to sit through that. And then there's a little bit of luck, because, you know, a lot of times when these things happen, companies aren't performing the way they're supposed to. And we all know what happens when the parking lot's full and the balance sheet isn't. So you have to survive that type of stuff. But, you know, and a lot of it, I think, is you have to have a pretty laser, singularly focused career type of thing. And I don't think any of the three of us are really wired particularly that way. And so, you know, some of us just have to want it enough. And I mean, Sean McVay is another young guy, the Rams coach. And
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And he's talking about retiring, and he hasn't even hit the big 4-0 yet. And he'll go get a job on TV, and they'll pay him whatever he wants to get paid, and he can go coach if he ever feels like it again. And yeah. Interesting stuff.
I like watching football on television. I don't think I would be I never had a passion for telling other players how to play the position, nor do I like understand the game on that level.
Exactly. Part of the reason I don't know it is I don't know what I'm talking about.
Part of the reason is because I know what the hell's going on.
All right. So why did you throw the ball there? What was your read? I don't know what any of those words mean, but
don't do that again.
Hey, you know how you threw the ball and there was a guy with a different colored jersey down there and he caught it instead of our guy? Let's avoid that in the future.
Yeah. All right. Bring it in, guys.
That would be great.
While we're at it, if you could never put out a product ever again that's going to fail any sort of inspection or certification process, that would be good. Let's also make sure that we never make anything that isn't going to sell ever again. And if we could all do that, we'd be in good shape. So that's
all right. I'm your leader, and onward.
Exactly. So I think the next topic we had was surprising and disappointing teams. Anything that we want to add to that list? I think we've gotten, for the most part, through the disappointing.
Well, the Broncos are pretty disappointing.
Yeah,
right? We're glad they're disappointing, but
like, let's talk about those guys.
Yes.
What the hell is that all about?
Yeah, Russell Wilson,
he's funny.
I personally believe the guy's washed up. I really do. And I think that he was showing signs of it last year when Chris and I were trying to figure out what we were supposed to be doing with our quarterback position on our shared fantasy team. We couldn't figure out why Russell Wilson's production all of a sudden fell off a cliff. And I think we kind of attributed it to that thumb injury that he had. But this year makes me kind of think that it was a little more than that. I also think he had a horrible head coach, and
Hackett was terrible.
Yeah, hack job. It was the worst.
Yeah.
Nathaniel, what's his name?
No, and I don't know if there's anything to take from the fact that, the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks of the season, he started to play a bit better. I think he played really well against the Chargers last weekend.
Yeah.
But I cannot say enough how much pleasure I took in watching and continue to watch that franchise operate like a turtle on its back. It's just awesome.
Oh, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a pro sports team that I hate more than the Broncos. This is sports hate, you know.
Tanya had
A
Tanya
lot
had
of friends that are Bronco fans, but I hate that team.
Tanya had Jerry Judy on her fantasy team, and he's pretty badass.
For 3 weeks.
Yeah. Against
Well,
the
he was
Chiefs. Yeah.
the guy. He was like very upset. Like, well, obviously he's just like Russell Wilson's like he was defending him really hard. It's like, this dude's more competitive. He knows what he's doing. He just I'm curious to see what's going to happen next season whenever he's back in the game there and doing his thing. I'm not weird ass season this year for them, and we'll see what happens with them. But I'm not counting them out yet.
So the biggest thing I'll say about that, I think that he was saying some things publicly and some things privately that were completely different. I genuinely believe that Jerry Judy was infuriated by how that season went, and
well, I can't imagine they
blamed Russell Wilson
in that
for it.
team, but
I mean, body language means something, and every horrible third down, you know, where the pass was the missing part. I mean, just look at the way that Judy was, you know, and that's how the defense was. That's how everybody was, and it was they turned on who was the running back they got rid of?
Melvin Gordon.
Yeah. And so, I mean, he ended up being the one sacrificial lamb scapegoat that they had. But I mean, anytime that offense walked off the field and put the defense back out there, that was a look on most of their faces. So,
all right. I do have another surprising team also. We got to bring this up is Trevor Lawrence, the Jags.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, right. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. They're a year ahead of schedule. Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched much of Nick Wright's show that's now at 2:00 Central on Fox Sports. First things first. He's been playing the Trevor Lawrence trumpet here recently. He calls him the Prince, and he actually hired 2 guys to come on and play the trumpet. So they come out and they walk up behind everyone. That TV show has turned into a great spectacle, like in the best possible way. I love watching him, Kevin Wildes, and Chris Broussard argue with each other.
I like watching Pat McAfee do his thing last night. Next is Nick Saban doing his like wrestling kind of promo style thing. That's my thing right now. But I need to check out Nick Wright. He was funny on the radio here in Kansas City.
Yes.
And I do like one thing I like about football is that, you know, if you stick with somebody, sometimes it doesn't play out, but it's fun to see when it does pay off. Like where, like things are down and out. Season of not so great season last year, and even the beginning of the season does not look so hot. But then they find a way to turn it around. You see like an uptick, and it's just fun to see that kind of thing because it's such a grind. It's a long grind, and you can come back from and score win 8-9 games and get to the playoffs. And that is just it's just that's one cool thing about it is you can do that and make those kinds of moves. And I guess the state of Florida, I mean, good for them having all 3 other football teams. About time Florida got something going for them, right? So
yeah no, it's I
Disney World.
Gotta be honest, I never really connected Florida with that level of success. It's not that I didn't know that they were all 3 there, just that never really clicked. I even think that I 100% agree with you. The Jags were the grind it out, you know, stay the course and make it work type of situation. Everybody laughed at Doug Peterson when he said, "Oh, we're going to turn this thing around," and then they did. Nobody's laughing. I look at the Kansas City running game a little bit that way as well because they floundered at the beginning of the season. I'm not sure Edwards-Helaire has a spot on the team anymore, but all of a sudden, halfway through the season, the running game just kind of clicked, and it kind of coincided with Eric Bieniemy making a comment, we need to run the ball more, and then they did. And now all of a sudden, between McKinnon and Pacheco, which I can't call him a surprise because I drafted him in 3 of my 4 fantasy leagues, and I cannot wait to keep him as a late round keeper. But yeah, they finally made it work, and I mean McKinnon's turned into really the fantasy player aside from Kelsey to own on the Chiefs roster.
Yeah. All he does is catch touchdowns, man. That's what he's turned into.
Exactly. Yeah, there's worse things to do.
Yeah. I guess he He had he had 4 touches for 0 yards, but still a touchdown against the Raiders.
Yeah,
he still found the end zone.
it's like the kind of math that my kids are bringing home these days.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I have to throw that out. The Common Core math approach takes a lot of heat from people roughly my age. I understand why they teach it that way. It's it actually makes more sense to me than I ever expected it to.
No, I that's what I hear. I hear that's what people say. I've never experienced it. I just hear people complain. I do see random videos with people doing it the way we learn how to do it. It's obviously faster, more efficient. It's not a hard concept to understand. But I'm guessing if you learn it from the age of like your kiddos, that becomes the way to learn it. It takes a little bit more effort from us to transition out of that into that mindset and teach it that way. I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean by that, Josh. Like, how is it better? Like, I don't know if it's like conceptualization or not, because I haven't done it yet. But
so here's how I'll describe it. I think we learn math by muscle memory to a certain point. And it was one of those things, you're given flashcards, you go through your 1s and your 2s and your 3s and your 4s and your 5s and your 6s, your 7s, your 8s, your 9s. And you're just told, go in your room and learn this and come back out when you have it. I mean, that's how I remember learning basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And you commit it to memory, and then you start recognizing things. And so here's the biggest thing that I'll throw out and what my observation has been. If I said take 528 and 469 and add them together, Brian's going to approach it one way. I'm going to approach it one way. Chris is going to approach it one way. They might end up being the same. Common Core math takes each of our 3 methods and they make kids learn that. And so what I mean by that is I would start by probably taking the 4 and the 500 and saying we have 900. And then you have whatever numbers I threw out. So I would take the probably the 9 and whatever number I ended the first one with and see if I can make that some level of a 10 or a 15. But I try to break things into big sections and then take like the 10s and 5s and get to round numbers and put the pieces on and then lump that together. There's Common Core exercises that make you do that. And so there's like hash marks, but there's a lot of it. From what I saw, just, working with my daughter is when she was in the early grades, and she's in 4th grade now, but like the first couple of grades, a lot of it is picking out 5s and 10s and stuff like that. But it's every chapter is a slightly different variation on that. And I look at it as you figure out the best way that you personally internalize numbers. And so it's less of this is how you get from point A to point B. And it's, here's 5 different options, pick one, and you need to get fast at it. That's the best way I can describe it.
That sounds very comprehensive. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what this is all about.
Yeah.
My favorite numbers right now, 13 and 4. Minnesota Vikings, another disappointing but exciting Kirk Cousins, but the worst 13 and 4 team in the history of the world. I don't know. I think they play the Giants. Who are they playing in the postseason?
They play the Giants. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Giants are gonna curb stomp them.
Yeah, you're probably you might be onto something. I don't know.
Could be.
You might be onto something. You might not. And that's the thing that I think is wild about this is that there's really not any way to. I don't know how to describe their season. I really don't. You could put them in both the most surprising and disappointing. I'm surprised that they have the record they do with the score differential.
But
then I'm disappointed they didn't close anybody out more, because it makes me think that they're going to be going home early. But then again, they play the Giants, who I don't think are a very good team. But
it's the weirdest thing. Like I have, it's weird. Like you have Kirk Cousins as your quarterback. Someone in this room might have had them on their fantasy football team, and he's hanging 2, 3, 4 points a game. But you have some dude named Jefferson or Jeffries or whatever, and he's like scoring 30, 40 points a game somehow, but someone hasn't thrown the goddamn ball. What the hell's going on here? And
you lose points for interceptions is a short answer.
Just love the
What else
fact
going
that
on
you
here,
don't know
guys?
Justin Jefferson's name, Brian.
what?
I love the fact you don't know Justin Jefferson's
Oh,
name.
Yeah, it's
God.
Jeffries or something. I don't know. I'm so pissed off about Kirk Cousins right now.
Oh God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
so yeah, that's my disappointment. I get back to my Kirk Cousins situation here.
Good Lord. All right. So before we get into what the playoffs look like, I want to take a quick kind of sidebar and go to the schedule in its basic shell of a sense is available for every single team because all the opponents are set. And we have to wait until May, most likely, to find out when some of these games are happening. I don't know if you guys saw this column, and I'm going to share my screen real quick because I'm gonna show you how I spent one of my evenings here recently. I think you guys will like this. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so this is a look behind the curtain of how I process things. I'm a spreadsheet type of guy. And so sitting on some of the social media pages and stuff like that, I see a couple of questions that keep coming up. And, you know, one of them is how the schedule ends up being so hard every single year. And why do we play the Bengals and the Bills every single year? And so I turned this into a column, but ultimately the NFL schedule is incredibly formulaic. So here's all of our home and away opponents. And the thing that's crazy is these first three columns that I'm going to mention, we could do this for probably the next 10 years with a full level of confidence. And so the NFL schedule is put together in a series of 5 buckets. You're always going to play divisional. You're always going to play one NFC division. You're always going to play one AFC division. And that's just a rotation. You're always going to play a home and away against your interdivisional rivals. And then the NFC just runs. And so what it is you'll play every single team every 4 years, and you're going to host them every 8. And where this gets interesting is 4 years ago, we played the NFC North, which is the Bears, the Lions, and then the Vikings and the Packers, but we hosted the Vikings and Packers, and we traveled to the Lions and Bears, so it flip-flops this time. So the big thing to know is this next season, the Chiefs are coming to Green Bay, and Chris, you and I are throwing a party, whether you're aware of this or not.
Okay.
But this season was the NFC West, so we played the Niners, the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Cardinals. We had 2 home, 2 away, and the 2021 season was the East. And so next season, after the 2023 that's coming up, we're going to play the South, and then it's going to repeat that. Same thing with the AFC. So there's 3 other divisions. We're going to play 2 home, 2 away against one of those divisions. Up next, we have the East, which is where the Buffalo Bills come back into play. The Dolphins will be coming to town next year as well. And then after that, there's the 2 other divisions you didn't play in the AFC. You play what I call your peer, which is who finished the same in the standings. So the Bengals won the North, the Jags won the South. We're playing both of those teams again. So for the 3rd year in a row, we're going to play the Bills and the Bengals because we keep matching up against them by 1, winning divisions, and 2, they just come up in the rotation. Last year, the NFL added a 17th game, and we get the Eagles next year because it's an odd year, so the AFC hosts. But yeah, very formulaic. So I had a little fun breaking that down, and thanks for listening to my monologue. You guys have any commentary to add?
Bring on Tyreek and the Dolphins. I can't wait to see him come back to Arrowhead.
I'm sorry, Josh. I'm sorry. I just woke up. What the hell? What I missed? I missed something. I'm so
exactly.
sorry.
Okay, so now Brian and I had a math teacher in high school who was known for filling up 2 full things of a chalkboard, and it was a chalkboard, not a whiteboard. He wrote with chalk.
Yep.
And this was like analysis of functions and calculus and stuff like that. And he would go on a tirade, and he would look around the room, and there would be 2 people sleeping. There'd be 2 people that understood everything, and then everyone else would have some very degree of I think I got lost there, but it might have been there. I don't know what any of this is.
You're talking about Mr. Nad?
I'm talking about Mr. Nad, and I feel like
That dude rules.
I feel like I just Mr. Nadded you.
That dude ruled. You know why? Because because I never had him as a teacher in math, but I love people like they always talked about him. But I did have him for like the homeroom, not homeroom, like a study, like the
Study hall, yeah.
hour break where you just supposed to do your homework in the middle of in the morning.
And you never did. Go on.
No, on contraire, on contraire, mon frere. I would remember. So it was my first experience like in his classroom on whatever the third floor, whatever it was, and I walk up to him because I've never talked to him before, and I needed help with college algebra, and I don't think he taught college algebra. He talked like all the higher stuff, but I remember walking up to him like hat in hand, like, do you know anything about college algebra?
Please, sir, can I have a farthing?
He looks at me, he goes, he smiles like, yeah, I know something about algebra. And it's like, well, can you help me with some algebra homework? He's like, for sure. Yeah, okay. Let me just grade this real fast and I'll come back in the last 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, cool. Brings me up and he's showing me how to do the algebra or whatever. And I remember saying, like, the answers are in the back if you need help.
That's funny.
I remember I had those in the back. But
I'm so far ahead of you, I can't handle this. Because the dude was brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. The dude is brilliant, and he would lose everybody because of how good he is at math. And I'm guessing Chris could probably run circles around us too. He's listening to me talk about like spreading things into tens and whatever. He's like, dude, I do chemistry every day for
Chemistry is not math. It's not math.
I guess that's true. Yeah. I guess that's true. So Chris, any comments about the opponents that we have? Anything really interesting in the home and the away that you're observing, or just anything that jumped out at you? No, it's just another year and let's win a Super Bowl and play it.
Just looking forward to another year where we play the Bills and the Bengals, and I think that's always a great measuring stick of where this team is every year.
Yeah. Last two things that I'll pull out, the two road games that seriously jump out at me. I mean, Chris and I are in Wisconsin, and so it's been 7 years since the Chiefs played at Lambeau, and I am incredibly excited that they're coming back up here with everything that we have going on with Arrowhead Kingdom. That is going to be one of the biggest parties that we try to throw this year. And so our goal is to be the place to be when you come to tailgate and see the Chiefs at Lambeau. And I encourage everybody to come because Lambeau is a great venue. It is my second favorite place to watch a football game behind Arrowhead. And I get into an argument every time I go there about whether or not Arrowhead or Lambeau is number one. You can imagine the locals have a different opinion. And honestly, I'm glad they do, because they should. And they have a stadium that's good enough to argue.
Hey there, Josh. Yeah, I got to go ahead and disagree with you there. I think Lambeau, that's where you want to watch the football game there.
Pretty much. No, so that's how that normally goes.
I'm gonna have to slash your tires if you keep on speaking like that, my dude. That's not gonna work out at all for me over here, Josh. It's definitely Lambeau.
And that's roughly how that conversation goes. But the other one is actually Jacksonville. And I'm excited that we're going back to Jacksonville. And I probably had half a dozen people tell me that I have to go down to Jacksonville this year. And the reason that I bring that one up is Arrowhead Kingdom is a product of Arrowhead South, which is Doug Morris, who we've had on here, his original group. So I don't know if you remember the Super Bowl winning season. Game one of that season was after Nick Foles went to be the Jags starting quarterback, and the Chiefs played in Jacksonville first game of the season. Foles unfortunately went down with an injury. But the part that I think most people that I knew noticed was how much red was in that stadium. And so that was the official coming out party for Arrowhead South. They did something that I don't think is ever going to be duplicated again, because at that point the Chiefs were a team on the rise that had, the Patrick Mahomes, and they're a fun team, and yada 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 yada. And it's like, oh, we got some Chiefs fans wanting to come in. Yeah, we don't really fill a whole lot of seats, but so the Jags actually were very collaborative in making that whole thing happen. They raised a ton of money for charity and everything. I don't think that there's a stadium that's going to welcome Chiefs fans in for probably 2 decades at least at this point. I know that when the Chiefs played the Texans this year, you could go on StubHub or Vivid Seats and buy Texans tickets for $10, and the season or the group ticket people didn't want to talk to our group down there. So there's not a whole lot of interest in bringing big groups of Chiefs fans in. That's going to happen anyway. But Jacksonville is going to be a party. So if you have an idea of wanting to go to a road game, the two that I would say to put on your list right now are Green Bay whenever that happens and Jacksonville whenever that happens. I kind of go back and forth as to what version of a Green Bay game I want. There's a part of me that wants to be the like second game of the season, so it's in September and you can get really good Wisconsin weather. There's a part of me that kind of wants to happen in December too, so we can get the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. Regardless, it'll be a place to be, and Jacksonville is going to be legendary.
I'm there. I'll be in Jacksonville.
Sounds good. We'll travel down together, and yeah,
I'm down.
All right. So, anything else about the list for next year before we get into the playoffs?
No.
All right. So let's talk about the NFC first and give her a quick takes on it. So the one bye goes to the Eagles. That one comes with no caveats whatsoever, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. So then the other division winners in order: number 2, San Francisco; 3, the Vikings; 4, the losing record Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Have to point that out. The Cowboys are the first wild card at 12-5, Giants second at 9-7-1, and the Seahawks at 9-8 to round it out. So our week into matchups for the wild card are Niners, Seahawks, Vikings, Giants, and Bucks, Cowboys. Brian, I know that you're feeling the Vikings. Is there anything else that's jumping out at you at that one? Anything that you're looking forward to seeing, or big, bold predictions you would make?
Oh, I think the Giants handling the Vikings are probably my biggest prediction there. I think, I mean, I don't know. Tom Brady in the playoffs, he finds ways to get things done. I mean, seems like every time someone bets against him, he like embarrasses them. So I'm afraid to even say that. So I'm gonna go with the Bucks against the Cowboys on that one too. Be my other one.
Okay, Chris, what are you thinking?
So we're just talking about the first weekend, or are we talking about the entire?
Yeah, let's talk first weekend, and then
Okay.
we can see what that looks like, and
Sure.
we'll project the next one. And obviously, this is going to be a modular thing because we're recording every single week until the end of the season.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to take Dallas over Tampa on that one. I think that I think Tampa. Dallas is my dark horse. As crazy as that sounds, I'm going to leave it at that. But I mean, other than that, I've got chalk. I've got the Vikings, and I've got the 49ers winning their games.
Yeah, so I'll throw this out. When I was sitting on Sunday afternoon waiting for Sunday Night Football to come out, I made some comments that I was, ready to put on paper and everything, that I expected the Packers to handle the Lions, and this to finally be the year we got a Packers Super Bowl team that we thought we were going to get the past few years. They decided to fall apart on that. But the other reason that I bring that up is that I had the Packers and the Bucks playing in the NFC Championship. So to get into that, I'm going the top seeds the entire way. I don't think that the Seahawks are going to have anything for the 49ers, and the Giants aren't going to have anything for the Vikings. I'm concerned about that Viking score differential when it's all said and done, but I'm not concerned about it against the Giants.
Just you guys wait.
So, and everybody that I know who grew up a Vikings fan says the same thing. They say, I've been down this path too many times. I'm not invested, so I don't have a problem saying this, and it doesn't make me nervous at all. But
Kirk Cousins, you're going to love how he melts down.
Okay, he's playing against Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
I mean,
5 interceptions.
That's why I take the Vikings.
I mean, the Giants and the Vikings is the battle of the quarterbacks that have no business being where they are, and they're going to mess this up.
The joke is always Kirk Cousins in like national television or whatever. Now imagine Kirk Cousins in postseason national television.
Yeah, but Kirk Cousins also did the moment where the Saints had the Vikings beat and hit Stephon Diggs when he still played there, and the entire building almost fell apart with people yelling "skull clap," So I do not see a world where Daniel Jones wins a playoff game. I really don't. Now, I think the worst thing for the Giants franchise is if he does. So by that sense, I think it's possible.
If the Giants win that game, it's not because of Daniel Jones. It's because of Saquon Barkley. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I got the Bucs over the Cowboys. I don't trust that team as far as I can throw them. I mean, it's Mike McCarthy and his clock management. It's the team that couldn't put more than 6 points on the board against the Washington Commanders. It's Jerry Jones that can't keep his mouth shut. It's introducing potential churn, not committing to Mike McCarthy and giving the kiss of death vote of confidence. It's the Sean Payton looming as the head coach taking over that team next year. I really think that Dallas goes out and just has a complete dud this weekend. And in my situation, it would be Eagles and Buccaneers and Niners and Vikings. And Brian's, it would be Giants and Eagles, and then 49ers and you were picking the Bucks too, right?
Yeah, pick Bucks.
Tom Brady.
And
then so for Chris, you would have Eagles and Cowboys. Yeah. And then 49ers, Vikings. So regardless of any of those matchups, I don't see how this doesn't end up being the 49ers and the Eagles in the NFC Championship. I don't see anything different.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I don't know who it's going to be. I mean, in terms of that matchup, it seemed like the Eagles would take out the 49ers in that situation.
Chris, do you see the Cowboys doing anything in the second round if they do make it through the first weekend?
Yeah, because I want to see Jalen Hurts in the playoffs.
Do you see the Cowboys doing anything is what I'm saying? Do you think they have a puncher's chance against the Eagles?
Yes, I do.
You do? Okay.
Divisional opponents, and we have not seen Jalen Hurts in the playoffs.
No, that's true. And if I'm the Eagles, the last team that I want coming the next weekend is the Cowboys. I will say that. I don't believe in the Cowboys, but I believe the Eagles don't want to play them a third time.
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe in them either, but I also think Tampa isn't going to score enough points to. I think that'll be a close game against Dallas, but I think Dallas will still win. I just don't like Tampa's offense at all.
I agree with you. I just think back to 2020, and I know that's a different team in a different world, but I just thought the Chiefs were going to have more for him in the Super Bowl, and that game just got out of hand, and Tom Brady reminded everybody that he's Tom Brady, and the Tampa defense played well. Tampa's going through a bunch of injuries. I think they lost 3 of their 5 starting linemen, which makes it quite easy and reasonable to get down on their offense
against a good pass rush. And Dallas has got a much more intact offensive line.
Yeah, Michael Parsons is probably going to have a field day on that one. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. So I think we're not 100% aligned on what we think the Cowboys are going to give, but so do you have any doubts about the 49ers making the NFC Championship?
No.
Brian,
no, I don't.
Any thoughts there? Because I don't have any
at all. If they have to go through Minnesota and Seattle, no.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't worry about them going through anybody. The Eagles, I think, give them the best game. I mean, if Tom Brady gets ahead of steam, then that could be a different story. But the 49ers seem like they have probably the cleanest just take care of business and you're in a conference title game that you can possibly have of any team.
Yeah, it's looking that way. See what happens.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then over on the AFC side, we all know the Chiefs got the 1 seed. We all know that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get the 5th annual Arrowhead Invitational. So Chris, why would that possibly go to a neutral field? I want to hear your explanation for this. I know I have mine. I want to hear how you explain this.
You mean you want me to, in terms of just explain how it would?
I want you to give me the nuts and bolts without your opinion. I want you to give the tactical how we get here, how we got here,
sure,
and why we're possibly doing a neutral field. So explain this to the world.
Yeah, so this is a ramification after the Monday Night Football game between Buffalo and Cincinnati. That game in itself had a lot of playoff ramifications in itself, but for those who watched the game, or at least have heard about the game, know what happened to Damar Hamlin, what ended up causing that game to be canceled. So both Buffalo and Cincinnati have played one less game than the rest of the field. In order to try and normalize that, what the NFL has proposed is that the seeding is based on winning percentage. However, to not disadvantage the Buffalo Bills from the opportunity they had at the 1 seed, and the fact that they do have a head-to-head win in Kansas City. If Buffalo and Kansas City do happen to play each other in the playoffs, which would have to be the AFC Championship game, it would not be in Buffalo or Kansas City. It would be played in a neutral field. So curious to know over the next week or two where that might be, but I think there's a strong chance that ends up happening, because I'm big on the Bills, and I think the Chiefs. I'm bullish on them right now too. I mean,
Can we have that game at Memorial Stadium or the booth here in KU?
Well, so the first thing that came up, as soon as the rumblings that was a thing they were even considering came up, Indianapolis was the first
that makes the most sense to me.
Spot that came out. And Indianapolis it's like a 7.5-hour drive from Kansas City and a 7-hour and 15-minute drive from Buffalo. I booked hotel rooms in Indianapolis downtown the second that rumor started coming out. Indianapolis has publicly said that they're not interested in that game. I'm not 100% sure that I believe that as a final answer, because
they're insane if they're not.
They're insane. Yeah, I mean, they're talking about like, oh, we have some convention that's not cool enough to be in Las Vegas or Orlando. So, I mean, Indianapolis is a fine place to have
Roblox convention. At the Roblox convention, we're not going to move that around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then we have a Leah Sophia show happening after that too. So we'll make sure that we accommodate that. Yeah. And then they have like a college volleyball tournament. And I'm not saying that any of this stuff isn't something to take seriously. They're going to pull people in and whatnot, but I have a hard time seeing them if they're offered an NFL AFC championship game, because they're not hosting one of those anytime soon. Let's be honest.
Almost like turning down the Final Four. Like
exactly.
I just don't see them doing it.
So I just don't see it happening. So I'm not going to cancel my rooms until that game's set for somewhere else. But the two places that I keep hearing most often are Las Vegas and Pittsburgh. And so really you're getting into
Pittsburgh.
You're getting into well, I do too, but you're getting into a question. It's like you have two outdoor cold weather teams. Yeah. So there's a pretty easy argument to say that you can find a cold weather place. And really what that does is it just opens everybody who's not in the playoffs, and Pittsburgh isn't.
For a team that stinks on special teams, Heinz Field is not a place I want to go to.
But I mean, if you really want to, I mean, the Raiders Stadium, I was out there before Christmas. That place is incredible, by the way. I can't stand the Raiders, but that building is awesome. To me, that's the answer. You're playing on grass. You're not making it an easy drive for one fan base and a hard one for the other. You're literally picking one of the 3 or 4 easiest airports in the country to fly into. You're picking a place that doesn't run out of hotel rooms. You got stuff to do. I mean, and again, it's the only way that the Vegas is hosting an AFC championship game.
Hear me out. Nice. Hear me out. Germany. Let's go back to Germany. Everyone can sing Country Roads again. That was pretty cool. Back to Germany. I say we go back to Germany or Wembley Stadium.
I'm not opposed to that. Well, Wembley's in London. I
know it. I said or. That's why I said or, Josh.
Yeah. No, I know, and I wasn't saying that you were getting it wrong. I was saying Wembley's in London, so we can go overseas. I like the idea of Europe. I really do.
How dare you punch my insecurity like that?
I wasn't punching your insecurity.
Don't punch my insecurity, man. What's up with you?
I was filling in the geography. Anyway, while we're at it, Tottenham could host that as well, and you would play on natural grass in both places. So, because actually the Raiders Stadium, the Cardinal Stadium are the two places in North America that have the grass that they actually pull out into the parking lot. So one thing that I thought was hilarious when I was in Vegas, they sun their grass in the Lot J parking lot. You cannot make that up.
Lot J. Nice.
Yep, Lot J, where the rowdiest Chiefs fans tailgate. That's where they sun their grass in Vegas.
Go 45, do zigzag.
And I am stopping exactly. And I'm stopping myself from saying Oakland every single time. It's always going to be Oakland. But
San Diego
stadium,
Chargers,
that stadium is the least Oakland thing that I've been to.
Oh God, yeah.
So yeah, but so getting into the playoffs, the first week is Bills versus a 7 seed Dolphins. That unfavorable conference or division matchup. The 3-6 is the Bengals, the Ravens. Which, by the way, the other thing that came along with the aftermath of the DeMar Hamlin thing, that was horrible, but there was not a worse game on the entire schedule for the entire season to get canceled than that one, between the Bills and the Bengals, because they were fighting for the 1, 2, and the 3, and that's why we got to where we were. But the Ravens, with a Bengals loss in week 17, would have been mathematically possible to win the NFC North. And so I picture the entire situation where you got a conference room. They booked it for 2 hours. You're 5 minutes left. And you've decided that, okay, fine. So if the Chiefs and the Bills play each other, we're going to pick a neutral location. They all get up to walk out. Somebody makes the comment, who's the host, is like, oh, I'm going to give you 5 minutes back. Everybody's high-fiving each other. And then the intern just goes, hey, wait a minute. What are we going to do about that potential thing where the Ravens aren't going to have a chance to win the NFC North? And they're just like, flip a coin. So if the Ravens would have knocked the Bengals off this last Sunday, they would have flipped a coin to see if the 6 seed went to the 3 seed stadium or if the 3 seed went to the 6 seed stadium.
Which is why Joe Mixon flipped a coin after scoring a touchdown.
Exactly. And I don't blame him one bit. I do not blame him one bit. In fact, Anthony, the Titans guy that we have come on here, is a huge professional wrestling fan. And his whole thing, he just goes, the Bengals are getting ready to make a heel turn. And for wrestling lingo, you have heroes and you have heels. I truly believe that it's a real sport. They're real athletes and stuff like that. We call
it good guys, bad guys.
Exactly. I don't think every single, move itself is scripted, but the overall flow of stuff is, and they play off the crowd. So it's possible for the bad guy or the non-intended guy to win a match. In fact, Chicago is famous for rooting for heels and trying to root heels to victory and stuff. But so it's a little more nuanced than good guys and bad guys based on the amount of time that they spend on the microphone and how they talk to each other. And so the whole idea is that if the Bengals end up getting screwed and being a 3 seed that has to go to Baltimore and play, they're going to turn into a bunch of heels, which means they're going to start running their mouth more than they already do, and just being complete anti-heroes as much as they possibly can. There's a part of me that kind of wish we got to watch that, but order was restored. They beat the Ravens, and now they actually get to host a game like they should. And then the last one is the Jags and the Chargers. So Bills Dolphins, do you think there's any chance the Dolphins pull this off? I can't say never because it's a divisional game, but Chris, what do you really think? I don't think you're giving the Dolphins a chance at all.
Yeah, plus I don't think Tua's going to play, so no, I'm not.
Dead on arrival.
Yeah,
Bills win.
Yeah, our old friend Tyreek Hill just gets weirder every day too.
And he hurt his ankle too on Sunday. So
yeah, and so he's got sunglasses on. He's like, oh, you better tell them cornerbacks to warm up. And somebody's just like, why would you tell the cornerbacks to warm up? He's like, oh, it's cold out. We need to make sure we warm up.
Well, it's smart. That's actually very nice when you think about it. Actually,
yeah, sure.
It's nice. I like that.
And it's not him trying to put down the Bills and then realizing he doesn't have 100 yards receiving combined in his last 2 games or anything like that. I'm sure that wasn't what
No,
happened.
this is people caring. I like that. I like stuff like that.
Sure. Okay, so then Bengals Ravens. So the Bengals took care of Baltimore, I think, pretty effectively this last weekend. They lost the first game, but that was early in the season when the Bengals team were different. Brian, do you give the Ravens any chance to go back into Cincinnati and possibly pull an upset?
No, gosh, that Bengals are just scary. I get scared watching them play now. I guess it's because how they handled the Chiefs the last few times they played us. It's like this team can beat anybody. They're effective at what they do. They figure things out, man. They go in that the halftime, they go in there and they figure some stuff out. Can't trick them. They come back out that third quarter with the Bengals. It's like it was freak show, man. So, anyways, yeah, Baltimore loses.
Chris, do you have any different thoughts?
Nope.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I don't think it's ever favorable to play a divisional opponent in the playoffs. Nothing good, comes out of that. But I just don't see how this season goes any way other than the Bengals and the Bills play each other.
Yeah,
and the only way that happens is
same,
they both win wild card weekend.
same quarterback situation there too. There's a good chance Lamar Jackson doesn't suit up for that game. So
Well,
yeah.
exactly. And man, that's just a bizarre situation. And
Mhm.
you understand where both sides are. I mean, I have a hard time saying anybody's wrong in this situation. I mean, the Ravens are sitting there going, how much guaranteed money are we willing to pay a running back? Let's just be
Mhm.
a little mean here. And the Lamar Jackson sitting there going, I want to get paid the market value. And the Browns and Deshaun Watson ruined that for everybody. So, and Kyler Murray doubled down on it.
Yeah.
Another completely unrelated news. Those teams won a combined 11 games, which makes
Yeah.
the playoffs if you're one team. Anyway, yeah, so we got Bills and Bengals playing in the divisional round. So the last thing we have to do is figure out the Chiefs matchup. And so we have the Jags, who turned their season around and did everything we talked about earlier, hosting the Chargers, who I will just come out and say this are the last team that I want to see in the playoffs. I would rather play the Bengals and the Bills than see the Chargers a third time.
Yeah. I mean, I got the Chargers in this game. It's interesting though that yeah, neither one of these quarterbacks has any playoff experience, but I just
Yeah.
I just think the Chargers are a better team. And plus they did lose by 4 touchdowns to the Jags in the regular season, but I do think they're going to use that as some motivation. Plus, they had some guys out, and Justin Herbert had just been coming off a rib injury, so I'm going to take LA in this one.
Brian, what do you think?
I'm gonna go Jags on this one. Not because I have any reason to think that I think Chris is spot on. I just want to see it happen. So I'm going Jags.
I think you can
All right.
argue either way on this
I'm
one.
going to flip my coin, also
Yeah.
known as a wrist bracelet from my wedding show this last weekend. I honestly don't know how to call this one. I can see it going either way. And, a lot of it is just, I truly believe momentum means things. And that was part of why I was saying that the Packers were going to be playing in a Super Bowl finally. But then they lost momentum. And I can definitely picture Jacksonville that this is the equivalent of getting the promotion that you're not ready for and you're going to fall on your face. And I can see that happening. But at the same time, I mean, what's the thing that you've seen from the Chargers these past 3 years that makes you think that they're going to close any kind of deal at all? And I can't come up with it on my own either. If pressed to this is the game that I wouldn't bet with your money. I'll throw that out. This is the one game that I wouldn't even think about putting any kind of bet on, but I'm probably more aligned with Chris that I think the Chargers are going to end up pulling this one out. I can't give you any specific reason why I see that happening. That's just what it seems like is going to happen. I mean, I just can't picture Trevor Lawrence having that year that he did with Urban Meyer and then clawing his way into the playoffs and then also winning a playoff game. So, I think that this lines up to the matchup of destiny, Bills hosting the Bengals and the Chiefs hosting the Chargers and playing for a third time.
All right.
So, getting into championship weekend, I think it's pretty clear. Chris is thinking that we're going to get a Bills Chiefs, AFC championship game, and we're going to be going somewhere different. I'm not convinced that we don't get a Chiefs Bengals rematch, and I just think that the Chiefs Chargers is going to be the game that's got drama that you don't want until afterwards. I mean, I didn't want whatever that 13-second game was when I was watching it, but after it happened, I was glad I had it. And that's what I project a Chiefs Chargers game to be is you don't feel good the entire time, but then it's just so yeah,
bring it on. Sounds good. Yeah. Chiefs over Chargers, and I'm thinking Bengals. I think a rematch is happening. That's my instinct right now. But yeah, I want revenge.
Cool, Brian. Super Bowl matchup. If you had to pick it right now,
Chiefs.
And you do have to pick it right now.
Chiefs over. My gosh, I'd hate to go chalk on this, but no, I'm not gonna go chalk. Chiefs over. Gosh, Chiefs over Cowboys.
Just say the Vikings. I know you want to.
No.
Say the Vikings. I know you want to.
Chiefs over Cowboys.
Chiefs over Cowboys.
Wow. Okay. I'm going Chiefs.
I love
so
it.
disappointed in me right now.
I'm going
I
Chiefs
love it.
over Eagles. It's the Kelsey Bowl. There's nothing I want more than the Kelsey Bowl. The best possible offseason we can get is those two playing each other in a Super Bowl.
That would be pretty sweet,
And
actually.
what their
That would be cool.
podcast is.
Their
Chris, what are you
podcast would be
thinking?
funny the next day. Yeah, that'll be fun.
I got Bills over 49ers. I think those are the two best teams in the NFL right now.
Bills Niners. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Chris doesn't think the Chiefs are making the Super Bowl. Man.
I don't. I'm sorry. But yeah.
All right. So
How dare you be honest?
we'll take that downer. Good God. So what do you got for a song of the week, Chris? If this week was a song, where are you going?
Well, I mean, it goes all the way back to the Monday night game. I'm going to go with Immortality by Pearl Jam. Not trying to get too deep on the meaning of the song. It's just really, I guess if you take it on the surface, a lot of it is, life and death and, really thinking a lot. It makes you think. And this past week definitely made me think, and it definitely had an impact on me. I'm just really glad to see that DeMar Hamlin is back in Buffalo, that he is, that's the fact that he is, his brain's function is right where it was before this, and hopefully cardiovascularly he's recovered as well. That's great news, and I'm really happy for him, and I'm happy for Buffalo and anyone else that's close to him.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that thought. And I mean, I pulled this up in the column that I wrote. What I remember during that whole situation is everybody talking about how unprecedented of a situation it is. And I agree to a certain extent, except that roughly a year ago, I watched this exact same thing happen on live TV. And it was in a soccer game. The Denmark player, Christian Eriksen, collapsed on the field, and he had a pre-existing condition. DeMar Hamlin, I don't know that they put out conclusive testing, but this was that, freak thing where you're hit right at the exact spot of your, heartbeat or whatever. But I mean, Christian Eriksen was down on the field for roughly the same amount of time. And one of his defenders held his tongue out of his throat when people came out to do CPR and stuff. And they ended up playing that game, by the way. There was like a 5-minute halftime in the locker room, and they played that game. And so the part that makes me excited about that is that Christian Eriksen's playing top level soccer again. And so, I really want to see a full deja vu where we have DeMar Hamlin playing NFL football next year. And I truly believe that that's where his head is, because the first thing that he communicated when he had consciousness was asking the doctors via written note if they won the game. It's like competitors compete, and that's what it is. So
yeah, I'm right there with you, John. I think the fact that this was such a highly anticipated, visible game, because yeah, I mean, Hank Gathers died on the basketball court with Loyola Marymount back in the early 90s. I even heard, there was an NFL player who died on the field back in 1971. We don't have back then, social media and television are nothing compared to what they are now. So I think that plays a role in this, but it should not in any way or fashion, those other instances that have happened should not be downplayed one bit.
No, absolutely. And I mean, that is the difference. And so the guy who died on the football field, I'm looking that up right now. I had this noted as Chuck Hughes.
Yeah.
Detroit Lions wide receiver. He died at 28 on October 24th, 1971. So he had a pre-existing condition. He had a heart attack and he died after he left. He died at the hospital. And the difference between the situation with DeMar Hamlin and Christian Eriksen was moving his hand at the end. The thing that we always want to see when there's an injury is the player doing the thumbs up or something, because that there's a level of consciousness. And the scariest part about Hamlin was, it was on national TV and you never saw that movement. And an hour later, we didn't know. And really 2 days later, we didn't know if the guy was going to live or die, be a vegetable or not. No, that was scary. And so this was unprecedented from that standpoint. But yeah, I never thought I'd see anything like that play out once, let alone twice. But again, I want to see the full cycle that Eriksen went through, and I want to see him play football again. So for my song of the week, did you guys see the thing with the Broncos lineman who didn't like the ring around the rosy play?
Yes.
Quinn Miners, you know where he's from, Chris?
Is he from Kansas?
He played college football at UW Whitewater up here by Milwaukee. Is the D3 stalwart, but he is from Hartford.
Did he play for Lance Leipold? That's something else I want to know.
I think he probably did. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he was drafted in 2021 in the 3rd pick, but he's from Hartford, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Which Brian, that's where Derek lived when he was up here.
Okay. All right.
And so yeah, like a small town. So there's a part of me that feels like I'm making fun of the hometown guy, but I just absolutely love this whole thing. It's like, oh, this really makes me mad, and I want to beat the Chiefs. So my song of the week, look up Garnett Mims and the Enchanters. They have a song called Cry Baby, and it's like, cry baby. So here we go. My whole thing is Chiefs haters, let's cry. That's what I think of that. It's like, do something about it. And you're not going to. So there we go. That's my song of the week.
Very good. Very good.
Brian, what you got?
I don't really have a song of the week. I just want the opening line to Wild Thing. Let's do it. That's it. That's my clip of a song of the week. So
got it.
Shout out to Tone Loke.
Yep. Good old Tone Loke. All right. So final takes. Do you have any good final takes, Brian?
No, I think everything we've said, I think it's all out there. Let's just do it. Let's do it. I want to see some postseason football.
Cool. Chris, what do you got?
Well, I mean, we're right in the middle of the firing of head coaches right now. You got Houston's looking for a head coach. Indianapolis reportedly is looking for a head coach. That's a crap show in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Denver, Arizona, someone else, I don't care. But the thing that I love, though, on Sunday, and I'm really hoping that there's something to Lovie Smith trying to stick it to the Texans. But the whole fact that the Texans lost the #1 overall pick thanks to a 2-point conversion that Lovie Smith went for late in that game. And then, of course, was fired the next day. But marking the second straight year that the Houston Texans have hired and fired a head coach within a calendar year, which just further cements my feeling on that franchise that I hope it gets contracted someday, because I think it's a terrible franchise, and I think the McNairs are a class clown ownership. But
Yeah, absolutely.
shout out to Lovie Smith, man. We stick it to him.
Oh yeah, that was great. That was great. So I want to talk about an end of an era that happened, and the end of the era is who has the broadcasting rights for all the games that aren't on your local TV. This season ends Sunday Ticket run with DirecTV. So DirecTV started that whole thing in 1994. So 28 seasons. Almost 30 years they ran that. And I pulled up a CNN article, and it had a quote that said the popular NFL Sunday Ticket package is leaving DirecTV and heading to YouTube TV. And I know that this is going to be a fairly polarizing comment, but there was a period of time where Dane Cook was quote unquote the biggest comedian in the world, and people either loved him or hated him. I always liked Dane Cook. I'll be the first one to admit that. I always enjoyed his stuff. I liked his approach. And one of my favorite bits that he had is he talked about, we always played Monopoly. Everybody played Monopoly. Y'all thought you liked the game, but nobody did, because every single time you're 4 hours in and you're flipping the board over and yelling at your grandparents. And that's the first thing I thought of when I saw that CNN quote. It's like, oh, the popular package. It's like, nobody wanted DirecTV. We all had it because it had NFL Sunday Ticket. That was the only reason to ever have that platform. We've all had DirecTV. I have zero doubt in my mind that both of you guys had DirecTV at one point, and I wouldn't be shocked.
Actually,
yeah, but I mean,
I right now.
When we first came up here, we got DirecTV because I wanted Sunday Ticket, and the thing that I'll never forget was the day before the Daytona 500, the signal went out. And so I called the tech support. People are like, well, we don't really have anything we can do for you. I'm like, okay, well, what do you mean? Because I have something I really want to watch tomorrow, and the only reason that you're useful to me at all is because you put stuff on a TV that I want to watch. No, I don't know anything I can do. And I'm like, all right, well, I don't see any reason to have you. They're like, oh, okay, cool. Forward me to the cancellation department, and they're just like, all right, well, how do you want to pay for the $500 contract break fee or whatever? And I'm just like, cool. So I hate DirecTV. I think that they're a tired, product that didn't keep up with anything, and I'm kind of glad that they're getting it stuck to them. And let's shout one out to our Google overlords that own YouTube TV that's picking up the platform, and they're also our platform. So good riddance, DirecTV.
Good riddance.
Well done.
All right, guys. Well, y'all have a good rest of your day, and let's enjoy not having to do anything but just watch football this week, and then we can come back and analyze what actually happened and see if we were right about anything.
All right, go Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Chiefs.